Welcome back, everyone. Since spoiler season 4 Secrets of Power is starting next week, I wanted to take some time and talk about the plot keyword. And specifically, I want to make the prediction plot will be the strongest set-specific mechanic we've seen up to this point in Star Wars Unlimited. And in fact, dare I say, plot is going to be broken? Stay tuned to see why I think plot is going to change the way decks are built, and what leaders are going to benefit the most from plot's inclusion into the game. And a sincere thank you to my YouTube members Ganix, Drew Kirkpatrick, Reviki, and Rabbit13 for their continued support on the channel. Now, into the rest of the video. Quick editing insert. Originally, this video was supposed to release Tuesday, which was before the Spotlight deck reveals. I decided to release that Thrawn Red deck tech instead. So this video mostly refers to the original 3 plot cards revealed. However, towards the end of the video, I have included a couple of the newer plot cards to help illustrate some of my points better. So with that, on to the video. So why is plot even good? What is going to set it apart from the rest of the game, and why is it going to be broken? Plot says when you deploy a leader, you may play this card from your resources paying its cost. Replace it with the top card of your deck. Plot is a combination of action cheating and card advantage, since you get to play the card from your resource row and not your hand. And since it has the same timing as a leader deploy, it lets you combine all those actions into one. We've seen both of these mechanics already be very strong. Who's the action cheating king right now? That's right, Kylo Ren, we're not done yet, who everyone thought was going to be great, right? Well, we'll get to that in another video. So why is Kylo good? Well, you put your cards in your discard pile by either playing them to make threatening units, forcing your opponent to remove them, or discarding them and drawing cards, which is also really strong. When Kylo Ren deploys, the cards you're playing that turn are from the discard pile, which means you aren't playing cards from your hand. In a way, it allows you to refill your hand while effectively using your resources that turn. And then you get to deal mass amount of damage to your opponents with your leader. So even if they deal with Kylo on the following turn, well, it's already too late for them. The other side of plot, besides the action cheating on the leader flip, is the fact that you are playing cards from your resource row and not your hand. This means that your resourcing decisions on the previous turns makes it so that you have more cards that are playable throughout the game. Typically, once you resource a card, it's usually gone forever. Playing good cards from row means that you can keep powerful cards in your hand, giving you more options to outvalue your opponents later on in the game. We've seen Smuggle do this very same thing. Most good Smuggle cards do tend to have an additional effect when played via Smuggle, like DL44 Blaster, Cassian Andor, and notoriously DJ Blatant Thief. But we have seen some Smuggle cards like Long Pike and even Armed to the Teeth be used. Armed to the Teeth was used in the Galactic Championship winning deck. The other most played Smuggle card was Tech, which gave every card Smuggle, effectively giving you a second hand, which is powerful in these grindier matchups that you would play him in. There is a downside when comparing plot to Smuggle, and that's the required timing of only being able to plot during a leader deploy. Smuggle can come out whenever you want. Need 2 extra damage to defeated unit or damage base? Just Hotshot Blaster. Need to threaten 3 more damage before the next action phase? Play Cassian Andor. The flexibility of smuggling when it's the most effective is a very strong upside to Smuggle cards that can't be overlooked. Plot does have one upside when compared directly with Smuggle. You don't have to pay a resource tax for plot. When Smuggle, you usually had to pay a 1 or 2 resource tax for the ability to smuggle that card. With plot, it's whatever's the printed cost on the card, that's the cost that you plotted out for, at least for what we see right now. There may be a way to discount it further with other cards or a leader. So now we know what plot does, and we've compared it to 2 powerful mechanics already in the game. What are some of the leaders that instantly come to mind as being particularly good with plot? Well, for me, the first existing leader that we have is Admiral Trench. For those who don't know what Trench does, he lets you rummage by discarding any card in your hand that costs 3 or more and drawing a card. But his leader deploy is the real key here. Admiral Trench can deploy every turn, but his deploy costs 3 resources. Admiral Trench fixes the timing issue of plot, but you do have to pay a tax similar to Smuggle since Trench's deploy costs 3. The other current plot leader we have is actually from Secrets of Power, the new set, and that's the new Chancellor Palpatine leader, who his leader ability is pay 1 resource, search the top 5 cards of your deck for a card with plot, reveal it, then draw it. We have seen pay 1 draw a card be used in the past with Emperor Palpatine, but that leader power also had other things going for it. It could defeat things like your own Super Laser Technician, and also damage an enemy unit. The draw can't be missed like the new Chancellor Palpatine's can, and Emperor Palpatine's card is not disclosed to the enemy. Did he draw the Super Laser Blast or the resupply? I don't know. But with Chancellor, if he pulls the perfect plot card, then you can just play around it or try to play around it. The other two pay 1 draw card leaders had additional costs, like Cassian Andor having to damage a base before he could draw a card, and Padme needing Coordinate, as well as only being able to draw Republic cards. The real power here, besides his 6/8 stat line for 7, which is pretty good, is that when deployed, the next card you play using plot costs 3 less this phase. On his flip, he gets 10 resources worth of cards to play, which may be pretty good. He can get an instant board if there are enough good plot cards. It's also worth noting that if we get a plot card that is insane but out of aspect, it still costs 1 less plotting it out with the Chancellor. And even if it's a double out of aspect card, it only costs 1 more to be plotted. And I'm getting a little bit of a reputation of playing out of aspect cards in my decks, which you'll see more of in the deck text coming out soon. But playing any plot card in the game for +1 resource can really open up deck building, especially because plot cards are meant to be resourced. So if you draw it, it's really good. It goes in your resource pile, and it's only +1 out of aspect card. Chancellor Palpatine will be good if one of 3 things happens. First, a tech-like card is printed where every card in the resource row gets plot. If that's the case, Chancellor can have the ability to cheat out already existing big units such as Relentless or Avenger. And like I said, he can plot out any card in the game for +1 resource if this type of card exists. Imagine any single card in the game being used in Blue Villain. Secondly, if a 3-drop plot card that is absolutely fantastic is printed, that way you can deploy Palpatine, play the 3-drop for free from the resource row, and still play a 7-cost card. Free is good, and a 3-drop for free that has something like Sentinel or maybe damages an opponent's unit, or is like a really good upgrade, could be pretty impactful. And thirdly, if we get just a huge plot card, something like an 8, 9, 10 resource plot card, this way you can effectively one-time ramp with Palpatine's deploy. Imagine you can play a card that has the impact like Spark Devastator on turn 6, Avenger on turn 6, or even a Crate Dragon on turn 6. Now obviously these aren't the cards with plot, but if one card is printed with the impact of any of these cards that can be cheated out with plot, Chancellor Palpatine will be pretty powerful. Outside of plot-specific leaders, do I think plot will be good? Well, yes, I do. And to discuss why, let's actually look at the 3 plot cards we've seen thus far. First up, we have Cad Bane in Press Now, which for 5, you get a 4/5, when played, defeat a unit with 2 or less remaining HP, which is actually kinda good. It's Devastating Gunship but on the ground, and since Devastating Gunship kinda sees play, Cad Bane is arguably better if grit doesn't matter, so Cad Bane might see play. The next card is Armor of Fortune, which is a 2-cost Vigilance upgrade, which just gives a unit +3 HP. And lastly, Jar Jar Binks, which is a 2-cost 2/1 when played, give a unit +2/+2 for this phase. I'm going to put up a group of leaders who have one thing in common. For those of you just listening, that's Sabine Wren, Chirrut, IG-88, Kylo Ren, Asajj Ventress from Twilight of the Republic, Third Sister, and Cal Kestis. So, what do these leaders have in common? Their downside is they have less than 6 HP. In SWU, currently 6 HP is a pretty important breakpoint for a leader. With cards like Force Choke and Takedown, it allows leaders to be defeated for cheap on their deploy. And yes, we are going to ignore Force Throw Crate Dragon for a second, so don't even write that in the comments. All of these leaders have 5 or 4 health. They can be Force Choked, Takedown, or even open fired in some case, which can make their deploys really underwhelming. Some of these leaders will be pretty strong if the downside would be mitigated. First, let's talk about Turret. Currently, a lot of fun Turret decks are running Pal City, which forces him into double blue. Pal City is played because the worst feeling in the world as a Turret player is flipping Turret and getting instantly taken down. Turret could never be good because if your whole strategy revolves around him being Voltroned, well, a flip into takedown is usually just a GG. We've already seen a card in Vigilance, Turret's native color, that makes him really good. He has Armor of Fortune, which just is a simple give a unit plus 3 HP. Now, you can safely deploy Turret, plot out the Armor of Fortune, and he's a 3/8. You'll have 3 resources left over to maybe even play like a constructed lightsaber on him. Now, Turret is a 5/11 Restore 2 that can only be defeated by Rival's Fall. And most decks aren't running 3 of Rival's Falls, so it's a pretty safe play to do. And I want to be clear, this playline is only in single blue. So pair this combo with literally any other color, and Turret may actually open up to be pretty good. Even if they have upgrade hate, it still gives you an action with Turret alive to stick another upgrade on him, furthering your strategy and making him really, really difficult to destroy. Next, Third Sister. She's a hidden when deployed, and for those who've been following me a while, I do think Third Sister is actually one of the most underrated leaders in the game. I think she's really strong. Everybody's biggest downside with her is the fact that she has 4 HP. Well, in green, you can hit her with a Jar Jar Binks. Now, she can't be taken down or open fired because she's a 7/6. And you have 3 resources left over. Maybe swing in for 7, and then play a 3-drop that now has hidden. Now, you have a Jar Jar Binks, a 5-attack leader in Third Sister, and a 3-drop like Grand Inquisitor going into the next turn, which is a pretty big board, especially if you had nothing already out. Alright, so let's stop talking about off-meta leaders that plot may make good for a second. Currently, Sabine is a good deck, but not a tier 1 deck. I know everybody might think that she's tier 1, but she's kind of been destroyed by Force Throw. She's still great, but she does have some issues. One way people have kind of countered Sabine decks is if they could manage her board and then defeat her on her flip. The next turns, she's pretty much at the whims of an ECL Wrecker or Poe to get back into the game. But once that happens, her deck is pretty much out of gas as long as you are outside of the 4 cause I can believe in range. So the cheapest way to defeat a Sabine flip right now, you can force choke her. You could take her down. You could power her if you've cleared her board. And you could even force throw a 5-cost card to kill her. Power of the Dark Side is kind of good if Sabines choose the Darksaber route, because a lot of times you could have managed the board a little bit, and then she flips into an open board, you power her, they were trying to go Darksaber, so now they don't have that great of cards in hand. And this is where Jar Jar Binks can come into play. You can flip, play Jar Jar, and give the +2/+2 to Sabine. Now Sabine is a 5/7, and you have 2 resources left over. This puts her out of takedown range, out of force choke range, and since Jar Jar is a unit, she can't be powered either. You can also play like Battlefield Marine or Sabine Wren's unit out. Which, fun fact, with this playline, the Sabine Wren unit wouldn't actually be allowed to be attacked because Jar Jar has green and the Sabine leader has red-white, so she has that protection. Sabine as a leader can now swing 6 to base while also having, at worst, 2 other units out on the board. And on the next turn, you're gonna need to deal with her somehow, and removal is super expensive in Star Wars. So she's gonna probably get ahead very fast, just by deploying, which is something you want to do anyway. Another leader I quickly want to highlight here is actually the Mandalorian from Shadows, because he actually could be quite strong next set with the right plot cards. For those unaware, Mando flips on 6 as a 4/7 with the ability when you play an upgrade, you may exhaust an enemy unit with 6 HP or less remaining. It's going to take a specific set of printed plot cards, but if we get more plot upgrades, or a plot card that deals damage to a unit when played, Mando can actually be pretty good. Think about this. What if we get a card that is like P-38 Starfighter, but in yellow hero and has plot? It gets to deal 1 damage when played. Then you also get to play Armor of Fortune that same turn if you're in like yellow-blue and attach it to Mando. Now you can flip Mando, play the Starfighter, ping 7 HP leader, and then equip Mando with that upgrade and exhaust that leader as like a counter leader flip, denying them the damage and the value of their leader. technically, in this case, if B-38 Starfighter in like whatever plot scenario I made up is still a 3-cost card, you would actually have 1 resource left over in this scenario. You could just play a 3-cost upgrade instead if we get one of those. Play lines like this could actually happen with certain plot cards. And be on the lookout for something like this if you're a Mando fan, because things like this is where we take leaders that don't see play and catapult them into relevancy. This section is added in post-Spotlight deck reveal because I had a thought after watching that stream. The thought was, Han 4 has possibly a really unique interaction with the plot mechanic that could skyrocket his power level. There's a section in the Judge Discord asking for clarification on this, but I want to break down the 3 possible ways that plot could work with Han 4. Possibility 1. Plot states when you deploy your leader, and we know based on the Chancellor Palpatine leader that leaders when deploy do go off at minimum before plots trigger. That way you can get the discount. The play line here is that you play out all your resources and then deploy Han, readying all your resources and then choosing to play out your plot cards with those refreshed resources. The interaction is already pretty strong because sometimes the downside with Han is that you have to correctly sculpt your hand so that you get efficient use out of all your resources that you ready up with his leader deploy. Plot can give him even more insurance on top of Smuggle, and also going forward once Smuggle rotates, that he can use those refreshed resources without having to completely empty out their hand, providing them more gas for future turns. This is just one way that Plot can potentially interact with Han, however. It could get better depending on how the comprehensive rules are written for next set. So let's break it down a little further. With possibility 2, currently in the game, all triggers that happen with the same timing can be ordered however the player wants. For instance, Darth Tyrannus has shielded and ambush, if you have the Force. You could ambush first and then shield, or shield first then ambush. It's totally up to you what you want to do. There is a strong possibility that plot and leader when deploys also could function in the same way. Hypothetically, let's imagine you have a 1 resource plot card, which doesn't exist yet, but maybe there is one, we just haven't seen it. You could deploy out Han, plot out that 1 resource card, then trigger Han Solo's when deploy ability to ready all the resources, and it would count this new odd cost card that you plotted out in the total number of odd cost cards that you have to ready 1 more resource, effectively playing that 1 cost plot card for free. Then you could use all your resources to plot out a second plot card. If so, then that could make Han even more powerful because he gets a lot more flexibility out of plot than a lot of the other leaders can. There is one big caveat here though. Tyler said during the Spotlight deck stream that if you plot out a card and then the replacement card comes in, that replacement card, if it has plot, would not be able to be plotted out. This potentially means that for this interaction, you have to resolve all the when deployed / plot cards before replacing your resources. Meaning that if you deployed Han on 5 resources and plot out the 1 resource card, Han may only be able to ready up to 4 resources that turn, which feels a little clunky. So let's reset interaction 2 to get ready for interaction 3. There is a possibility that when you deploy Han, every plot card that's already in your resource row sees the leader deploy and triggers. Then, once you play out a card using the plot mechanic and replace that resource, if that replacement card again has the plot mechanic on it, it never actually saw the leader deploy, thus it could never trigger. Let's go back to the last interaction we talked about. We deploy Han and all of our plot cards trigger. We decide to play out our 1 resource plot card, again, which doesn't exist. In this interaction, you would actually completely replace that card, but if that resource that comes in has plot, it never saw Han's actual deploy, so it actually doesn't trigger, but it's still in the game, allowing you to then ready up to 5 resources with Han's readying ability if you have 5 odd cost cards in play. This would allow Han to actually reach his full potential, because you could even think about it this way. Imagine that you don't have that big of a board, and then you deploy Han, and you can plot out 3 odd cost cards, and now you have the ship that was odd, you have Han who's odd, you have 3 other cards that you plotted out that are also odd cost cards, and now that's 5 ready resources. You can ready your entire resource row and then play a 5-drop from hand like Plo Koon. That could really, really, really raise Han's power level through the roof if this interaction works this way. So, my closing thoughts on Plot is that Plot is going to let a lot of off-meta leaders that had potential but massive downsides cover up those downsides and possibly be meta relevant. Plot is also going to make decks like Sabine Wren come to power once again. Jar Jar Binks being in green lets Sabine ECL kind of upgrade their deck for like the first time in 3 sets. Even without Plot, Jar Jar still can pump units for 2 damage, which is sometimes relevant. We have only seen 3 Plot cards thus far, and probably have something like 50 more Plot cards yet to be revealed. If we get a Plot card like DL44 Blaster, or even Snapshot Reflexes that let you attack with a unit when played, I think Plot is actually going to be very, very, very strong. Jar Jar Binks right now may be one of the most powerful units in the game. Yes, I'm not kidding. I actually think the +2/+2, giving it to like your leader when played, is actually something that's going to be really strong. He's in Data Vault's colors anyway, so why wouldn't you just run 3 Jar Jars, make your leader flip just that much better? For 4 months, we're going to have Jar Jar Binks and Overwhelming Barrage on like 7 flip leaders. That's kind of nuts. That's already 4 damage, even if you had like a 0 attack leader for some reason. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing. And if you want a deck build or just talk with me and my community, consider joining the Discord. The link will be in the description below. And that is all I have for you today. Have a wonderful day and see ya.